welcome back. Hey, we are here today with my main man, Tino. It's the second Tino. I'm gonna let him introduce himself now. But we've known each other now for a while,
man,
right?
For a long time.
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
And we have been we've been in touch pretty much since then, right? And even the Heart of Men was a great time, you know, that we kind of just rekindled and met again and caught up on life. But it's been an interesting journey, and you're always an interesting person for me, specifically in my life, because you have a heart for God. Like, you have a heart for God, and we're gonna speak about, because we will obviously speak about Christ now and before Christ, like your life before Christ and your life now with Christ, right? Which is gonna be a super interesting story for you to share. But with Christ now, you know, you are one of the people that always challenge my spirituality. Like, honestly, the way you devote yourself and consecrate in prayer and in spending time with God, you know, making intentional time with God. You know, you and Tino previous on the previous podcast. You know, you guys are very intentional when it comes to spending time with God, and you make effort to do so. You know, and from a spiritual point of view, spiritual relationship point of view, even a spiritual maturity point of view, you can see those fruits, right? You can see those fruits because you take time to spend time with God, and you're intentional with God, and then you're honest with God as well. Not only with your homies, but you're also honest with God, and I've seen that in your life. And I can see the purity of God, you know, in your journey with Christ now. But quickly share a little bit about yourself. Give us a little preview before Christ.
Before Christ. All right, man.
And now with Christ, what is it looking like? Tell us.
All right. So what's up, family? My name is Tino. That's my natural name, but I go by the name of Spiritual Thug. I go by the name of Digger. You know, those are kind of like the nicknames that I have. You know, I spit a little there and there, you know, make music. Man, so I basically pretty much grew up here. Originally from Zim, that's where I was born. But I spent most of my life here. And I think I can say that, you know, I was raised in a Christian home. You know, I was raised by my mom. You know, I believed in God and going to church and all of that. But I think, you know, with life, you just sort of get you get caught up. You know, you get caught 100%, up. 100%. You know, so I think for me, what really kind of my old lifestyle, what was influencing me, or the people that I was surrounding myself with, is that, because I think it's actually funny enough, like, because in high school, we would see each other, would notice each other, but I think my circle of friends, I think the more I just started gravitating towards, you know, friends that weren't necessarily Christ-like, you know, and I think even in those days, I remember when in grade 9. You know,
we were in the same class in grade 9.
We were in the same class in grade 9.
9-4.
And
madness.
And we always like, it's almost like I admired you, like I admired you secretly, right? But I was like, nah, but I can't be too much like Jack. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, you're always church. You know, you're always like, man, Jack ain't doing nothing. You know, Jack ain't doing nothing funny. Like, he ain't doing, like, you were that guy, bro.
People used to tell me I was no fun, bro. I just love Jesus.
Man. And even at that time, man, like, there was always this, like, conflict inside your mind. Like, yes, you know, your conscience is telling you one thing, you know, like, because I think there is that innate knowledge, you know, in Ecclesiastes it says that he has placed eternity in the hearts of men. So everyone knows about God. Everyone knows the truth, right? But then I think, especially because of our sinful nature, we just now gravitate towards the things of the world, right? So I think that was always, you know, the admiration that I had for you. But I was like, I want to wild out a little bit, you know. I want to wild out a little bit. So I think that led to that led to a lot, man. That led to a lot, you know. Got exposed to a lot of things, drinking, clubbing, messing around. You know, I compromised, compromised my virginity, ended up doing things that I didn't want to do, and even the people that I was surrounding myself with, it was almost seen like having your virginity was seen as like, man, something's wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? It was frowned upon.
It was frowned upon.
It was frowned upon.
You be a joke.
You be a joke, or you don't have game. You don't have that type of thing. That was always a conversation that was having around. So I think that influences you, right? It influences your decisions. It influences, and then even after high school, the environments that I also got exposed, same kind of thing, same kind of conversations. Then you find yourself doing things that you're looking back, and then you're regretting. But even through that, I think God was so gracious that I don't want to say that I came out unscathed, in which I did, right? Because even if I look back and some of the people that I was doing, some of the people that I used to hang around with and where they are now, it's like, oh my goodness, jeepers. You know what I'm saying?
100%,
so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the grace of God upon my life. And the more you mature, the more it really becomes apparent that the wages of sin is death.
Wow.
The wages of sin is death. Because you only realize how God was gracious when you come out of that. Man. Because grace is a free gift. Right? It's a free gift. And I realized that, man, God's grace was upon my life. And now, like we always used to have this saying of the heart of men abuse the grace. Which obviously was alluding to the fact that now we have this grace.
We must
make the most use of it.
Let's use it.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
But the term that I'm trying to phrase to, that I'm trying to make reference of, is not actually taking that grace for granted. Because we can also abuse it in that sense, right? Where now we can almost use it as a license to sin or to keep on sinning. So I think the more you mature, the more you realize, like, man, grace is actually an empowerment.
Yes, 100%.
Grace is an empowerment for you to live above sin. For you to live a completely different life, a completely new life. So that was the kind of transition that I had, and I'm still growing. This Christianity, because Christ is perfect, because Christ is whole, because Christ is God. It's like we're always chasing. You know what I'm saying? We're always chasing Him. You never reach that level. You know what I'm saying? Even when we feel like you've reached it, there's always something more.
There's always something more.
To
become more like 100%.
To become more like you can never get complacent. You can never get comfortable. You can never say, okay, I've reached this level.
I've reached the
Christianity.
level.
Not with Christ. You know what I'm saying? Every day we are becoming more and more like Him. He says that. I think it's in 2 Corinthians. He says that we don't look at the outer man, for the outer man is perishing, but the inner man is being renewed day by day. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient; they're passing away. But the things that are unseen, they're eternal. So it's in realizing that, man, every day I'm shedding away bits and pieces of my old self. You know what I'm saying? I'm shedding away. And I'm becoming more and more like Christ. More and more like Christ. So that's the kind of mindset that I'm slowly adapting to. But like even with that, right? I think when I was transitioning, from the streets to the kingdom, the streets, from the streets to the kingdom, it wasn't like a 360 turn. You know what I'm saying?
Immediately.
It wasn't.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. There were times where, you're still battling with your old wills, your old emotions, your old habits, all of these things, right? But I think what really matters the most is when you just keep going. You know what I'm saying? And even the spaces like the heart of man, I think, man, that was crucial for me, man. That was really crucial for me, because I found a space where I could be vulnerable. I could open up about my struggles.
100%,
I could realize that I'm not the only one that's going through this.
Yes.
Yes. And I could realize that I can genuinely come to God. Genuinely wanted to repent. A broken and contrite heart, He does not despise. So And you know, I think at that time as well, I think when you mature, you're like, man, Mons was really still a babe, man. You know what I'm saying? But I think that phase was still crucial. You know what I'm saying? It was still crucial. It's needed because you're growing. You know what I'm saying? So I think as well, like as Christians, or as recently converted Christians, you also need to give yourself that time, that space, you know, to grow, to realize. I think the most important 100%. Thing is your heart posture towards God.
Yes.
That is the most important thing. Like your heart posture towards God. Because you could have the most purest intentions, which is good. And then sometimes you get, you know, you slip up, you backslide.
Yeah.
But if your heart is pure, if you always have a repentant heart, you go back to God.
Yeah.
Then he gives you more grace. And he empowers you, and he sends people around you to show you that, this is not your identity. You know, because I was having a conversation with with one of the teenagers at my church, and I was like, it's about, are people seeing more of you, or are they seeing more of Christ? Oof. You know what I'm saying? And once your heart is being changed, the behaviors automatically change. You know what I'm saying? You know, or it will take time, right? But once your heart has been changed, naturally the behaviors will start to change. So I think that's also the process, you know,
100%,
the transformation of the heart, the transformation of the mind.
100%.
That takes time, you know. That takes constant reading of the word,
sanctification, to be set apart. Takes
realizing time, that okay, cool, this is now who I am. This is the new man. So now it's feeding that new man. It's now developing that new man. You know, it's feeding him the word, feeding him the food for him to grow. So now he transcends. You know, you transcend the things of the flesh. You transcend, or rather, you realize now you can put systems around it. You know, you put systems around you. Like, okay, cool. I know this is what I'm prone to. This is this. Now I can put systems around. Now I can mature. You know, because that's what Christ wants us to become. He wants us to mature.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
To mature.
Quick question. Let me just check quickly.
Yeah.
This thing stops. My phone is getting full. Quick question on just the transitioning, right?
Yeah.
And now you've been walking in confidence for a long time.
Yeah.
For a while, not a long time, but for a bit.
Yeah. For a bit.
Do you ever find? Let me rephrase that question. How often do you come across triggers of certain things from the past, and how do you deal with that? So certain triggers, you know, that pop up. Right. And then how have you developed a strength, or at least a discipline, to be able to not go back there?
So
and move forward.
That's a really good question, man. Because I remember, you know, back, you know, when I was, you know, still in my transitioning period, and you know, my maturing period, those sort of triggers. For those of you that don't know, let me also open up. Pornography was also a huge problem that I battled with. So, and those are things that you're seeing constantly. Like, you know, it's on your phone. Maybe you go on the gram, you see something.
100%.
And you don't realize the systems around it, or you don't realize. Because one thing that has really helped me the most. Well, first and foremost, is to avoid by all means. Right, is to avoid, because especially if you know, like, what are some of the things that trigger you, to avoid them. Right, if you can't, and then by some way, shape, or form it happens, it pops up, don't linger. Don't linger there. Don't linger there. You know, because your mind is deceptive, right? You can think like, okay, I can see something, I can just look at it, but I won't do anything. But what you're doing is that you're feeding the sin. You know, you're feeding the sin, and you're feeding. Like, I watched this reel. This guy was talking about sensuality. He was essentially saying, like, sensuality is that process between you feeding that sin until you actually get to that sin. So he was saying that what you should actually focus on is cutting off the sensuality before it gets to the sin.
Before it gets to the sin, You
know what I'm saying? Before it gets to the sin. And that requires a different type of thinking. So now what I do is that I flee.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I flee, you know, whether it's on the internet or whether it's physical, whether it's someone I see, or whether I feel like this lady or this girl is making some sort of advancements towards me.
Yes.
I'm not gonna try to entertain that because I know myself as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know myself, and I know that the heart is deceptive. It's desperately sick.
Yeah.
It's wicked. So it's being a lot practical. You know, it's really being practical, like making sure that that's sorted. You know, the practical stuff, right? And then the most important stuff is just spending more time with God, spending more time in the presence, because naturally those things they will shred off. You know what I'm saying? The more time you spend in the presence of God, the more you realize that, man, this is not me. You know what I'm saying? This is not me. Because I think as well, like, one thing that I'm realizing about lust is that it's one of those things that's very, very deceptive, in a sense that you can't really see it.
100%.
Right? We could be sitting here, bro. You don't know what I'm thinking.
What you're thinking,
you don't know what's
100%.
on my mind.
That is so true.
You know what I'm saying?
That is so
and
true.
Also so it's also fighting it at the root of it. You know, so even when you're putting these boundaries and doing, which is all good, but if your heart hasn't been changed, you know, Matthew 5 verse 8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." You know, and in Hebrews it says, "Strive for peace with all men and for the holiness, which without no man will see God." So it's in realizing that it has to be a change of heart, internal, internal change first, and then the external naturally will change, so that when those things do happen, when something does pop up, when you feel a certain energy, immediately you know what to do. You know what boundaries to place. You know what boundaries to place, because now you know it's about the heart. It's about the heart. You know, I'm reminded about Joseph, right? And Joseph is just such a prime example, because he had every opportunity. You know what I'm saying? He had every opportunity to do what he wanted. Potiphar's wife, she was good, good looking, everything, 10. And she's the one that wanted to do the thing with him. She approached him. But what did he do? He fled. He said, "How can I do such a great wicked thing against God?" Against God. Against God. Crazy. So that's what really just made me realize, like, your mind, once your mind has been changed, once your heart has been changed, once your heart, once that healing, because I also realized that I think lust, because lust is at the root of all these things, right? Sex, masturbation, pornography, fornication. It's all the root of lust, right? That's the base. And when you realize that lust and love, they cannot coincide. They cannot coincide. That's crazy. They cannot coincide. It's impossible for them to coincide. So the more that love fills you, the more the love of Christ fills you, takes over, the more the lust is fade away. The more the lust fades away. 100%, so good. The more the lust fades away. So it's really, generally, it boils down. It boils down. It boils down to the love. But we also shouldn't negate the disciplines that we have to put. We have to put in place. The systems that we have to put in place. The fleeing from the temptation, whether you're seeing it, wherever it is, on the internet, on the ground, physically as well. Certain spaces. I can't go there. You know what I'm saying? I can't go to those spaces where I know, like, okay, cool, the girls are gonna be there, it's gonna be a vibe. Just like this, like it will just trigger you. See it, it's gonna trigger me. It will trigger you. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm still a man at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Putting those disciplines, the prayer, the continuous prayer. Because prayer is building up your spirit, your spirit man. Your spirit man, You know what I'm saying? Above all of these, prayer is the most important. Prayer is the most important, because you're building up your spirit. In the book of Jude, it says that, "Beloved, building yourselves up in your most holy faith and praying in the spirit." So you're building your spirit, man, because all of this stuff is all works of the flesh. And Galatians 5 says that, "I say walk by the spirit and you're not gratify the desires of the flesh." So you always realize there's that contention. There's that contention between the spirit and the flesh. And your soul is at the mercy of whoever's in control.
Yeah, one wants to control.
You know what I'm saying? So now when you're doing prayer, when you're tapping into prayer and reading of the word, and occasional fasting, then you're building up your spirit to keep the flesh at bay.
100%.
To keep the flesh at bay. So those are the disciplines that I put in place. Even physical training. Training my body. Jogging, gymming. That also plays a part in just disciplining myself.
Because
your mind as well.
It disciplines your mind.
Your mind. And also just getting busy, also just getting busy, getting busy doing things, and getting things, getting things done. Because most of the time we realize when we start entertaining those things, we don't really have much to do. You know what I'm saying?
We're bored.
We're exhausted. Or you're hitting someone up. But once you're busy, once a man knows his purpose, you're too busy, bro. Adam was too busy to even think about a lady, bro. God literally is like, here's Eve. You know what I'm saying? Here's Eve. Because now he had found his purpose. Now he had found his purpose. And it was like, oh, snap. Okay. Thank you, God. This is not flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. But he was so busy. He was so, focused on his purpose. That he didn't have time for those distractions, because that's what they are, right? They are generally just distractions.
Literally distractions.
To steer you away from your purpose.
I love that you brought in the just explaining the triggers that you brought in, the struggles of the flesh, right? And man, like, this is obviously a topic for another day. But it is a good topic, right? Lust comes in play in the absence of love, right? It comes and wants to take over that positioning. So like you're saying, right? They can't both be in the same place, right? They can't both be in the same place. And so when there is a lack of love, there is an open door to lust, right? But when there is love, there is no open door to love, to lust. You know what I'm saying? Because you know who you are. You know that you are loved. You know what I'm saying? But that's a good topic, and that's definitely a topic for a different
I have this
podcast.
I have this little thing on my wall in my room. It says that love gives, lust destroys. Love is selfless. Lust is selfish. What else does it say? Love creates. I think lust. Love creates and lust destroys. Somewhere along those lines. So it's literally like making a comparison. Between what love does and what lust does. Lust is selfish. It destroys. It is it brings about guilt. Whereas love brings about peace. So it says love is peaceful, but lust is anxious. So that's always something that I remind myself. That's always something that I remind myself to know, like, okay, these are the characteristics. These are the fruits of lust. These are the fruits of love.
So good, bro. What is how is the will of God tied to your purpose? Right? We see this amazing transition in your life. Where you have transitioned from living a certain life to now from thugging. From thugging. You know what I'm saying? And now you're thugging,
for the kingdom.
Now you're thugging for the kingdom. And there is a purpose, I believe, attached to it. Right? What does that look like? How is the will of God tied to your purpose? For your life.
For my life. That's a really good question, man. I would say, man, what the will of God. I think the will of God, like there's. If we go back to the beginning of creation, right? The book of Genesis, when God says, "Let us make man in our own image." Let them have, dominion. Let them multiply. So I think that'll always be the general purpose for each and every single human being. Now that we're in Christ, everything now is filtered through Christ. You know what I'm saying? Our purpose, our lives, our will is now filtered through Christ. And I always make reference to this scripture in John. I love the book of John, by the way, where Christ was saying that my food is to do the will of my Father.
Yeah.
You know, my food is to do the will of my Father. And Paul speaks about, for this is the will of God, for you to give thanks, to rejoice. This is the will of God, your sanctification.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that there isn't any, like, purpose itself is always transitioning.
Yeah.
Right? It's always, because your life goes through different seasons.
Yeah, changes.
You know, your life goes through different seasons.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you look at what really matters the most to God, what did he say when he was ascending? Go and make disciples of all nations.
Yeah.
You know, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, teaching them all that I've commanded you, and behold, I'm with you till the end of the age. So that is the general purpose for every Christian. Now, how you might go about that is different.
It's different,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How you might go about that is different.
Yeah.
You might do it, you know, maybe you might have the gift of, maybe for example, for you worship, creative ministry, that's doing that, that's winning souls, that's bringing souls to the kingdom. You know, for me, it could be something different.
Yeah.
You know, for someone it could be business, for someone it could be this, for someone it could be ministry, for someone it could be, you know, athletics, for someone it could be writing, it could be music. It's all of these things.